Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Thanks for being here. Welcome to another live Q&A and possible call-in show. If nobody feels brave enough to call in today, then you're going to have to make me change the thumbnail. And I'm going to look pretty silly because right now it says on the screen, call-in show. And I will not be able to change that. So please, if anyone's listening now and fancies calling in tonight, please let me know by sending me an email to understandingconspiracy@gmail.com explaining what you would like to talk about. Or alternatively, go to the Telegram group and go to the announcements section of that group if you're already a member and say, Paul, I'd love to hop on and have a talk with you about this particular topic. Give me a bit of a breakdown roughly of what it is you want to touch on, but I'm hoping tonight we can talk about this demon face syndrome thing and see what your theories are on the matter, but also your thoughts and opinions on the coming red heifer prophecy as well, about to be fulfilled, so-called, and also just anything you want to discuss at all. It's pretty much fair game for me within algorithm reason. Come on, guys, you've got to play the ball a little bit. All right, you've got to be cool. So hopefully some people might feel brave enough to call in tonight. We had a great call-in show not just the other week. We had 3 people call in, and I thought we had some really nice back and forth, some great conversations, and I would like to possibly do that again. Let me just check the chat. Let's see who's here. Who have we got with us right now? We got the usual mods. Wendy, thanks for being here. Great to see you. We got Pepe's GF, a regular facer. Great to see you. Who else have we got? We've got Anne-Marie, thanks for being here. Always nice to see you. Corbear, thanks for being here. Just joined on Patreon. Thanks for your work, Understanding Conspiracy, says Corbear. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, guys, if you are interested, you can go to Patreon. There's loads of extra stuff on there. I know this is in pounds, but it basically equates to $5, $10, $20 there. And this gets you access to extra content which you do not get on my YouTube channel. It's mainly after show talks with content creators, things which we can't really discuss on YouTube I put on there as well, you know, and it's just a bit of behind the scenes extra stuff. And all you need to do to get access to everything is $5. You can donate more if you wish, but $5 is all you need to get access to everything. So thanks to the patrons who already do contribute there. I really, really appreciate it, guys. And thanks for just joining there as well, Corbear. I really appreciate that too. But yeah, who else have we got? We've got, let's have a look. Go to the top here. We've got John Ellis is a new member as well. That's brilliant, John. Thanks for doing that. Only $2 to become a member of the YouTube, I believe. That means I get $1 of that, or £1 of that, or something like that once YouTube takes their cut. But unfortunately, being a member, I will say, doesn't get you anything extra other than a nice shiny little star next to your name, which is pretty cool, you know. But if you want access to all the extra stuff, Patreon's the place to go, and that's $5. But looks like we might have MK Ryan here as well. Ooh, he's graced us with his presence. It's rare to get you on the live, MK Ryan. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate that. Got Butterfly Brain. We got Isaac. We got Neckbone. Jody Lamond. The Truth Puzzle Life. Mark is here as well. Mark Higgy, thanks for being here. Right, best behaviour, Wendy has arrived. Yeah, Wendy pulls a tight shift, doesn't she? And God bless her for it. I appreciate all the work she does for me on this. You know, even I haven't seen the stuff on Patreon, says Keely, my wife. Yeah. Well, the stuff on there really is just me chatting away with people, you know, and you guys catch a live show with me, don't you? Whether that be Shelley or you know, Joe from JT Follows JC, or anyone at all that comes on the channel. And usually there's like either a preamble or a post-show conversation that always happens. And I capture those moments and then I post them onto Patreon. And on Patreon, you know, it's great. So I'll show you here, for example. Let me just quickly share the screen. I think you guys can see that. So yeah, this is the recent one with Tala from Kingdom Within. We had a great talk about the millennial reign on there for a good 2 hours. And then obviously it says here ended at 1:56, but then we went on for another 20 minutes here talking about the Nephilim bloodlines, black goo symbolism, all sorts of the extra topics. We've got some great interaction from people here as well who decide to, you know, get involved with the conversation, and it's just a bit of a bonus. And then if you go a bit further down, you know, I've got here me and a podcaster, had a bit of an after show talk about Bigfoot, which was really fascinating. Here I am with George Hobbs after he was on my podcast, The Truth Therapy Sessions. We went on for a good 15 minutes there discussing some extra things. Here I am with Joe. Vicky Joy Anderson as well, the after show chat there. We went on for another 50 minutes, you know. We had pretty much a whole new podcast went on for there. There's Theron from Toad House. There's Shelley as well from There's No Place Like Home. We got Demon Erasers. We got all three of us together there with Joe as well. We got Lloyd Dijon after our Gnostic talk. And other than that as well, updates for the book. I post chapters of my book on there as well. There's a video I can't put on YouTube. Loads of things, you know. I keep you guys posted. That one wasn't allowed on YouTube either. Yeah, and then early access things as well. So go check it out if you haven't already, guys. Let me just quickly switch this back because I'm losing where I am and what I'm doing. There we go. And this is what I see, by the way, on YouTube. Whenever there's a live show, it tells me how many people are here. It gives me it's a bit of behind the scenes stuff. I get the chat as standard, but it also this OBS software I use under here. You can't see this, but this also gives me the same information as well, so it keeps me updated with what's going on. So there's a bit of meta commentary for what it's like to be a streamer. But let me, while I'm talking, shall I put some stuff on in the background? What shall I do? Shall I put some slideshows? Shall we put some clown stuff on the back? It's been a while since I put the clown stuff on. Yeah, let's do the clown stuff. I'll let the clowns roll in the background because I'm considering doing a bit of a book reading for you guys as well, actually. Just to ease us into this before I begin, just to show you guys what's going on with the book and where I'm up to. But yeah, let me just get up actually. Let's do that because I've just I'll share the screen with you guys as well while I'm doing this, so you can read along with me if you want, and you can see where I'm up to with the book too. Here it is. Here's the book. So if you don't know already, guys, I'm splitting the book into 2 volumes. And this is volume 1 here, you see here, which is 20 chapters in total it's going to be. Let me just get the right thing. There we go. Yes, it's going to be 20 chapters. I am currently halfway through chapter 18 here, which is about sacred clowning, the Hayoka, the Pueblo clowns as well of the American plains, there's the South American ones as well. It's all there, and also a few ones that are from around the world also. It's like I've lost it. Let me try that again. Volume 1. Yeah, let's go down here. Sacred clowning. Yeah, so I'm just writing this. I've been writing this for the past couple of days. I'm about halfway through that section. And then it'll be chapter 19, where I'll share some trip reports of people who see DMT jesters. And then that'll be it. Quick conclusion at the end of that, and that's the end of volume 1. And there you go. I've got a complete book which lays out the foundations of the history of the Nephilim and why they would look like clowns and where we got a clown from in the modern Western world and what it's based on truly, the conspiracy, the secret societies, and a full breakdown of the caricature of a clown and why it is specifically representations of Nephilim features, all succinctly in a book, topped off with some extra stuff about sacred clowning and people who see a DMT jesters. And then once this volume 1's done, published, I'll be continuing on to volume 2, if I could just use this software properly and actually show you guys something coherent. There it is. This is volume 2, and I've kind of already started it. The plan's already here. The chapter numbers are going to have to change now because I've just done chapter 20, haven't I? But I'll just start these afresh and do section 1 and 2, chapters 1 all the way down. But this is basically all about the folk traditions. This is what volume 2 will be about. Going to each individual continent and discussing all the ancestor spirit folk traditions who dress in Nephilim-esque costumes to venerate the ancestor spirits. That's what that one will be about. And then the second half of volume 2 will be about all the modern things, the clown murderers, the clown sightings, the fear of clowns, the multicolored collective, film and TV, the music industry, all the modern good stuff that everyone loves to see, Who knows, I might even add a chapter in there or a segment on demon face syndrome while I'm at it, because there's always new stuff coming up just in time for the book. But like I said, volume 1 is about to come out. I reckon I can have this finished, proofread, boxed off in maybe 2 months, maybe 3 at a maximum push. But I'm targeting myself for 2 months. I can have this book published and ready to go, volume 1. Me and my wife are working on a book cover. and obviously it's pretty much already proofread, because I'm a meticulous writer who goes over everything over and over and over and over again. So I don't think the final proofread should take too long. We did the math. We put it through Kindle self-publishing software, and in the format they do it, it came up at about 200 pages, just shy. But they format it really weird, and the words go all the way to the ends of the page, which just doesn't look right. It's not formatted like this. So I need to do a bit of editing, but I reckon it'll extend the book size probably to be about 200 to 230 pages once I do that, and add in all the preamble, copyright pages, thank yous at the end for all the donators as well, all these type of things. So yeah, roughly about 200 to 230 pages for Volume 1, and probably the same for Volume 2 as well. So this will be about 400-page, 2-volumed book once finished, and I will be creating a combined Volume 1, Volume 2 combined book at the end of all this as well. So you can buy 2 volumes separately, or you can buy a combined one. And who knows, maybe once that's done and I've published both the Volume 1 and 2, maybe I'll do like a special edition with images and colour and all that stuff. But they're really, that would end up being really expensive, guys. So I don't know if we are going to do that. But there you go, a bit of an update for the book. And I think I'm going to read a chapter to you guys right now, a bit of fun. I think I'm going to read this one, The Ringmaster and the Hatman. And I bring this up because people have been talking about the Hatman in the Telegram earlier today, talking about people who take Benadryl and see the Hatman. And yeah, this is a topic I have covered already. It's something I talk about in the book as well, and I think it's probably pertinent and valuable just to discuss this a little bit. And I'll share with you this chapter as well as a bit of a sneak preview. When it comes to, by the way, guys, just a quick update as well, while I've got your attention. Please, if you have already pre-ordered a book on GoFundMe, so you donated either £100 or more, and you're now eligible for a signed copy of the book, I need you to send me your shipping address. Okay, so about a third of you have already done that, which is great, but I've had 73 pre-orders, and I've only got about 30, maybe 28 actual addresses sent to me already. And also, along with your address, I will need your choice of either Volume 1, which will be published in a few months, signed and sent to you, or you can wait a year and have both volumes combined into one book, signed and sent to you. But you can only choose one. So let me know your preference and your choice along with your shipping address, and you can email that to me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com. The address is in the description of this video, and any video on my channel, you will find my email address in the description. So please send your choice of which book you want signing and sending to you, and your shipping address. I will need that. If it comes to publishing the book, and you guys haven't sent me any preference whatsoever, I am going to assume you're waiting for the full version. That's what I'm going to assume, okay? But if you do want Volume 1 signing and sending to you instead, you will have to let me know sooner rather than later. There is a time limit to this, okay? So I will say that. But anyway, guys, yeah, I'm gonna read this chapter to you just for a bit of introductory fun. Maybe I don't know. It might be boring just having words up on the screen. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna have a slideshow. Let's do a slideshow of just clown-related stuff going on in the background, shall we? Well, stop this. We'll restart it, and I'll let this play in the background while I just discuss some of these things. Maybe there's one that's more, I don't know, more Hatman related that might have a compilation of. Let me just quickly check. Let's see what comes up. Not that one. Not that one. I have no idea about that one. Let's see. You know what? It doesn't matter. I'm just going to let this random one play while I talk about it, okay? So yeah, just quick 10-minute reading, guys, and then we'll get into the demon faces stuff as well, just while we've got people rolling in. So I will open the page, have a quick drink. And here we go, Chapter 17, The Ringmaster and the Hatman. It is commonly understood that the Ringmaster costume is a continuation of the riding crop of early equestrian circus shows of the 1700s. This seems simple enough. But did you know that the only member of a Freemason lodge that is allowed to wear a black top hat is the most worshipful Grandmaster? A seemingly benign tradition on the surface, but when one considers that the circus is a mirror of lodge rituals, as discussed in Chapter 15, this choice in headwear becomes extremely pertinent. If we take a quick visit to Masonry 101, a website dedicated to explaining the signs and symbols of the craft, or at least the basic exoteric interpretations they give the public, it is explained clearly why this is the case, and perhaps offers a more satisfactory explanation for why the Ringmaster looks the way he does. Quote, "Wearing a hat in a lodge is a privilege that is afforded only to the worshipful Grandmaster of a lodge. While the lodge is in session, no one else is allowed to wear a hat. A hat worn by a master is a reference to the crown that was worn on the head of King Solomon. In history, kings wore crowns as a sign of their rank. Those in his presence removed their hats as a sign of respect to the king. But in most Grand Lodges, it is the choice of the officer himself, and can be as far-ranging as a fedora, Homburg, Tyrolean, Panama, sombrero, or even a wizard hat. This allows the officer to use his creativity to display his own personality." End quote. In light of this admittance that the hat is a symbol for Solomon's crown, it makes perfect sense why the 10 Brotherhood-led circuses joined forces to put on an enormous travelling show called King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba in 1914. The top hat-wearing, whip-snapping and clown-wrangling ringmaster of the circus is King Solomon, the Lord of the Ring, which was used to control the demons and build his temple, the orchestrator of the demons, clowns, and master of the ritual, circus. On one level, this explanation for the hat worn by the ringmaster of the circus could be considered enough to prove that clowns and circuses are rooted in the demonic and the occult. However, this goes much deeper than simply being a Solomon analogue when we begin to examine the use of the hat in spirit summoning rituals found all over the earth. Typically, a hat of any shape is worn by a shaman of any given tribe who practices spirit communication and witchcraft. Perhaps one of the most well-known examples that more closely resembles that of the Ringmaster is Baron Samedi of the Guide family pantheon in Haitian Vodou. Those who wish to channel the spirit of the Baron dress like a typical Grand Master of a Freemason lodge, top hat and all, while also adorning their face with white and black skeleton makeup. Once possessed by the Guide spirit, the vessel proceeds to drink rum and smoke cigars in a blackout trance they can barely recall once released. To dress like something is to channel the thing when it comes to spiritual practices, and those who practice Haitian Vodou know this very well. Remember, the Nephilim hunger and thirst with no bodily means to quench their needs. Therefore, they take full advantage of the opportunity to experience the pleasures of alcohol and nicotine given to them by the Haitian practitioners of Vodou. Those who allow their bodies to be used by the Nephilim spirits gain knowledge, strength, and power in exchange for their offerings. The Solomonic Freemasons who also dress this way are likely doing the same thing, albeit in a less overt fashion. It must be mentioned that Haitian Vodou was heavily influenced by Masonic ritual, Catholic idol worship, and African ancestor spirit worship, combined into a unique style we see today. This odd amalgamation of spiritual practices is thanks to the French colonization and importation of African slaves to the very small island. Many of the sigils and signs used in their summoning rituals are copied from Freemason iconography such as the square and compass, sun and moon, and, as we have just shown, the costume of the worshipful master. However, this use of the hat as a tool for summoning purposes is not only reserved for the overtly Masonic-influenced Haitians. Moving across the Pacific Northwest to examine the practices of the Haida tribes of the Guahanas Archipelago, formerly known as Queen Charlotte Islands, we find the tall hat is an essential part of the shaman ritual. The Haida, like most North American native tribes, have a secret society dedicated to shamanistic dances in which young initiates must take part in 11-day rituals hidden from the tribe, with the last 3 days having spirits exorcised from them by elders of the tribe. Once initiated, every winter, these members would perform dances dedicated to keeping the winter spirits away, while wearing a multi-layered, tall hat. The Canadian Museum of History gives a telling account of what these practices originate from for the Haida. Sorry, let me just read this. I need to rewrite this section. The Canadian Museum of History gives a telling account of where these practices originate from for the Haida and what the tall hat symbolizes to them. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. Quote, "The Haida version is different. According to it, secret societies are stolen by their own supernatural beings, the Quinji, who travel from Haida Gwaii in a small black canoe called the Tobacco Canoe to the house of the chief of the undersea world. One part of the long story illuminates some of these features of the Haida dance hats. Quote, Quinji sat by himself on the side of the house, and at intervals opened his bag, took out a piece of dried salmon, and ate it. For this all of the supernatural beings laughed at him. Then he put on a tall dance hat and began to dance. At once they heard the spirits, secret society whistles. The first time that human beings had heard them. These whistling sounds were caused by flickers. Quinji's hat now began to grow, and as it grew, seagulls and cormorants flew from the joints and scattered their excrement over everybody, so that the supernatural beings covered up their faces. By and by, his hat shrank again, and then he took off." End quote. The living beings flying out from the joints of the stack of the rings on the dance hat are a revealing reference to the Haida belief that the rings represent the spinal column of supernatural beings and are a source of new emerging life. The story ends with Quinji escaping with the new dances he has been introduced to them, to the Haida. As you just read, the tall multi-layered hat is a powerful tool and symbol as a connection to the spirit realm for the Haida tribes. The tribes also adorn the tops of their famous totem poles with 3 watchmen, who wear very tall cylindrical hats. They represent the literal and physical use of members of the tribes to stand watch and raise the alarm for incoming warring tribes and danger from land and sea. Today, these odd-looking carvings on the top of totems serve as sentinels to each tribe's village, to instead ward away evil spirits. These totem poles make for a fascinating study showcasing animal-human hybrid monsters with clownish pale white skin and bright red lips, like that of this book's main subject matter, the Nephilim. These totems, along with the clothing, artwork, masks, traditions, and dances of many other ancestor spirit worship tribes, will be discussed in detail in Volume 2 of this series. I think perhaps one more example showcasing the hat as a tool for channeling spirits is enough for this particular chapter. The Madang shamans of South Korea are a great example of traditional shamanistic practices that use something very similar to a Masonic top hat to channel spirits. In the Musok religion, supernatural beings are called Quisin, which means ghosts, or Sin, which stands for God or deity. Though a Madang will often refer to all spirits as Sin, they still divide these beings into 2 main groups, the gods and the ancestral spirits. All supernatural beings are seen as volatile to humans who interact with them. A shaman is necessary as an intermediary and protective barrier for effective communication with spirits. If humans do well by them and provide sufficient offerings, they can receive good fortune. But if they offend these entities, then they may suffer greatly. Madang practitioners don't choose to become a shaman, but instead are turned into a medium after being tortured with misfortune, illness, or madness by spirits. They often report fearful encounters with spirits through dreams. These dreams and visions then reveal which deities the future Madang is expected to serve. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry. Just checking my phone. Just quick pause. I always get worried whenever I get a message in the car because I feel like it's my wife telling me everything's just cut out, nobody can hear what you're saying, stop talking. But luckily, it was nothing. So let me carry on here. Sorry, I'll just recap where I left off. Madang practitioners don't choose to become a shaman, but instead are turned into a medium after being tortured with misfortune, illness, or madness by spirits. They often report fearful encounters with spirits through dreams. These dreams and visions then reveal which deities the future Madang is expected to serve. Once initiated and trained by another elder Madang, they are then hired by wealthy clients to perform a summoning ritual called a cut. After an expensive, elaborate, and dramatic show, a Madang is possessed by the spirit who is causing the problems for the family, and speaks to the audience. The Madang may stab themselves in the chest with knives, run the blade along their tongue, or press it to their face and hands. The ability to undertake such dangerous acts without harm is regarded as proof of possession, and for the efficacy of the rite. The shaman must also talk in possession speak, or the ritual is considered a failure. Most families who sponsor the ritual believe dead family members are stuck in the spirit realm, unable to pass on to the final judgment, due to their attachment to something from their original life. If not an ancestor spirit causing mischief out of grief, then it will be a god which needs to be satisfied with appropriate sacrifices and offerings. The details for this very complicated and elaborate tradition will be explained more thoroughly in Volume 2 of the series, but for now let's focus on the costume worn by the Korean shaman for this chapter's purposes. Though the colourful costume varies greatly with each practitioner, the common thread we see is that the hat they wear appears to be a tall, very wide-brimmed hat. Sometimes the headgear is black and slightly conical in its verticality, similar to a stereotypical witch's hat, though other times it is uniform in its height and covered in colourful flowers, like a typical and embellished Western top hat. We can see the use of the hats in the process of summoning and channeling spirits is a relatively universal motif to shamanism. A tall hat with a wide brim like that of the Ringmaster makes all the more sense after examining just a handful of cultures who use a hat of similar design for spirit communication, especially after proving that circus performances are simply mirror of Masonic Lodge rituals. However, it must also be mentioned that simply dressing in the costume of something we can summarily call a hatman is not the only way this visage manifests in a suspiciously spiritual fashion. One strange outlier in all of this research is a character who appears to be haunting people in their dreams and waking life, in what is often equated with the demonic phenomena called shadow people. The Hatman, and I believe also Shadow People, is a trademarked title belonging to Heidi Hollis, author of The Hatman, The True Stories of Evil Encounters. In 2014, she published this series of first-hand witness accounts of a shadow that presented itself as a hat-wearing human figure in a long trench coat who oozes a darkness with his presence that can be equated with the feeling of pure evil. Shadow people have been a main staple of sleep paralysis experiences for quite some time now, and this new flavour of shadow entity appears to be a leader of lesser shadows. This phenomena of terrifying encounters with a hatted figure appears to be happening to isolated individuals on a mass scale, with no prior knowledge of such an entity existing before their experience. I make this claim from personal experience, as it was only after my own interaction with this pimp-like creature in a nightmare that I go on to discover that I was not alone in my encounter. If you're interested, I documented my full experience in a video on my YouTube channel titled The Hatman, A Demonic Encounter. This phenomena does complicate matters somewhat for this theory, as we now have more questions than answers. For example, are the Freemasons who created the Ringmaster analogue of Solomon simply paying homage to the ancient temple builder, as they claim openly? Are they copying the shamanistic practices of ancestor spirit worship cultures found all around the earth, like that of the Madang, to channel many spirits? Or are they dressing this way to create a channel with a specific entity we now know as the Hatman? We can learn of more modern interactions with the hatted entity through a relatively new and disturbing trend among millennials and Gen Z, which involve the ingestion of Benadryl. A content creator who runs a YouTube channel called Cryptid Candy has compiled all the known internet knowledge surrounding this underground subculture. I learned from my own interview with him that the Hatman entity was not only witnessed by those overdosing on hay fever medication, but also treated as a god among those who regularly partake. The drug in question is called diphenhydramine, or DPH for short, and it is a potent deliriant that causes extreme and terrifying hallucinations in high doses. In 2020, a TikTok trend called the Benadryl Challenge even caused the hospitalization of 3 teenagers and the death of a 15-year-old girl. Then a re-emergence of the challenge caused the brain damage and death of a 13-year-old boy, who was filmed by his friends taking a dozen Benadryl tablets. These instances, however, are simply the mainstream public understanding of why these young people are taking Benadryl, as a trendy social media challenge. Below the surface, it appears an underground subculture has created a competition out of taking higher doses in order to break through to Ariel, the pocket dimension of the Hatman. They even created an informal Discord group called the 700 Club for those who have taken over 700 milligrams of DPH. Legend has it that you are only invited after taking the heroic dose by the agents of the Hatman, who were informed spiritually by the god that you had indeed taken 700 milligrams. Sadly, the underlying and childish sentiment behind this culture is one of nihilism, mimetic humour, and a desire to claim the darkest hallucinations as bragging rights over other users. Many of the addicts purport to both love and hate their addiction to DPH due to its quasi-spiritual hallucinations and detrimental health effects they can't get away from inflicting upon themselves. The disastrous side effects to one's health from DPH are caused by a 3-pronged attack upon not only the vital organs of the users through extreme toxicity, but also on the mind of the user, as it attacks all functions that pertain to memory and thinking. All these horrific side effects, combined with a powerful addictive property, makes this drug a terrifying thing that should be re-evaluated as more than just a harmless, over-the-counter hay fever medication. As the body dies a little bit more with each dose, the deliriant effects of the poisoning shows the users a place full of their worst nightmares, a place run by the Hatman, and embellished with enormous shadow spiders and people. The Hatman entity is a mysterious monster, with his worshippers, emulators, and channelers found through all cultures and rituals. It is clear that the ringmaster of the circus is modelled after the worshipful Grand Master of the Lodge, who claims that the hat represents the crown of Solomon. I personally doubt that Solomon was wearing a top hat in his time. So were the worshipful Grand Master of the Lodge truly got their inspiration for this costume is completely up for debate. Perhaps they too are trying to become the shamans of the Western Brotherhoods, to control the Nephilim spirits for worldly gain. Perhaps they are simply trying to channel the seemingly high-ranking entity we know as the Hatman for direct instruction. Either way, they are not dressing this way to look like a 1700s equestrian, and where the Hatman fits into the Nephilim hierarchy of spirit creatures is a mystery for myself. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention this odd character for posterity. Okay, there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that dramatic reading I just gave you there of that chapter. That's chapter 18 of the coming volume 1 of the Nephilim Look Like Clowns, which will be published in a few months' time, guys. So I hope you're looking forward to that. I hope you enjoyed that little reading there. And yeah, the book is full of interesting little tidbits like that all the way throughout. And I hope you enjoyed that reading, guys. I really do. I'm going to take a drink because my throat is so dry now. Just bear with me a second. Dan B, thanks for being here from the Revealed podcast. I hope you're doing well. I was on Dan's podcast discussing the Nephilim Look Like Clowns just the other week, actually. So go and check that out on his channel if you haven't already. Revealed podcast. Or you can go find it in my own live section too. MK Ryan, the patron is worth it for sure. I've definitely paid much more for less. Excellent, MK Ryan. Thanks for shilling for me. I don't even pay the guy to do that. I really appreciate the support there. That's great. What's going on here? No need to be rude. TN Hippie, first time viewing live. I've watched a few videos. Well, it's good to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. It's a pretty chilled out crew. We like to have a good time. We like to have a laugh here. We like to talk about all sorts of crazy things. And again, I just share with you guys a few extra things on the side. I'd like the coffee table edition, Paul, says Butterfly Brain. Okay. Right. Took more Benadryl. Ooh, Anthony Salerno. Accidentally took more Benadryl than I should have. I couldn't tell dreams from reality. I would slip back and forth. Yeah, that stuff is powerful, man. It's not an over-the-counter thing. It should not be. It should be a controlled substance for sure. DPH is no joke. Reveling in a spooky story to enjoy is actually a lot like dressing like a thing to attract it. What? Maybe, maybe not. How is reading information reveling? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, this is a book, guys. I've had to like find all this information. The whole thing is reference to the nines. This isn't just me saying stuff and making it up. And I wouldn't call, presenting valid facts as reveling in things or attempting to create channels to the spirit world or something. I don't think that's fair. Right, guys. Yeah, I've caught up with the chat there. Brigitte Benadryl does nothing to me. Well, maybe in small doses, no. But when she starts taking stupid amounts, that's when things do start to get weird for people. Right, guys. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to talk about today, anyway, is I just did a video recently on the demon face syndrome, which is obviously the namesake of this show. So there's some images of what's going on here. And the story goes, if you don't know already, and I have just released an episode for this, for the Nephilim Look Like Clown series, but to give a quick summary right now, it seems like people have suddenly been discovered over the past 10 years, and there's only like 81 known cases so far, but people are starting to see people's faces being distorted into a demonic visage whenever they look at them, a lot like what you see on the screen here. And this is a rendition based on the research done by people of what they see. So if they look at any normal face, it will be warped to look like a demon. And this wide-grinned, clown-like monster thing is what they end up looking like, And it fits with my theory perfectly with the Nephilim looking like clowns. I think they would have been a lot more colourful than this in real life. But if someone does have a demon within them, which manifests, this is likely what it would look like. And I came at it in my video from that perspective, you know, that this is demonic possession related. What people are probably more likely seeing is the demon within people. And it also, I was hinting at the idea that it's possible people are starting to only just see this now because there's been a huge mass mental torture regime implemented onto the general populace for the past 4 years, especially since the beginning of the, that whole thing. So I think people are mentally traumatized and in fear states so much lately that people have naturally started to open themselves up more to seeing the spirit realm. I gave the example in my video that, you know, most shamans, like the Madang I mentioned earlier in that book reading, they have to suffer extreme trauma in order to be opened up to see the spirit realm. Someone sent me an email earlier explaining how this is the same in satanic ritual abuse. And all people who are members of these power families that rule the world, you know, who are involved in the occult and Satanism, they abuse their children from the age of 5 brutally, so they grow up with abilities that makes them able to see into the spirit realm and communicate with demons more readily. And that's what every member of those families ends up going through. Even the adults we see today who are in these positions of control and leadership over the world, even they were abused as children for that same reason. And it's just normal practice for them. It's completely everyday stuff, you know. And so it's not unprecedented that people start seeing the spirit realm more clearly and have a stronger connection to spirits after extreme abuse. And it's said in most of the articles I read that the people who have this, or at least the 2 cases they mentioned, have suffered things like strokes, serious health conditions, PTSD, stuff like this, you know. And so I theorize that's likely why these people are probably seeing these things. But I remembered not everyone's a Christian, and a lot of people think differently when these events happen. And more of the, I don't want to say Gnostic types, but what they're discussing is kind of a Gnostic idea, that what these people with this condition are really seeing, you know, is the mask slip from people who are not really human, you know, and it's their holographic skin or their holographic projection breaking, you know, and what's really underneath is it's like a they live situation, you know, and these things that aren't human live among us, and now we can see them, and the mask is falling and the veil is thinning, and now these people can see what they really are, what they truly are, you know. They pretend to be human on the surface, and then what people are seeing with this condition is not a distortion of the truth, but they're seeing through the distortion and seeing the truth. Do you get what I mean? It's the other way around. It's like that's what their face really looks like, and the human one we normally see is the fake one. So it's kind of like an Uno reverse on what I'm saying. What I'm saying, kind of, you know. And again, that's another interpretation I've seen a lot of people talking about, you know. And I am very, 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 very careful to go down the route of implying that some humans may not be humans. Okay, and I do understand the beliefs behind that. I do. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I get it. I've been there, you know. I've seen all the things you've seen. I understand why there's precedence to believe that there may be non-human entities among us who perhaps put on a human skin in a way, in a metaphysical, spiritual, or even in some case literal sense, to hide their true forms from us. Perhaps that does happen. But I think they are such an extreme minority that these people, for example, who have this condition, wouldn't suddenly be seeing everybody they look at with the same face. Not everybody's secretly a reptilian demon, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And masking themselves as a human. And it seems like people with this condition seem to see everywhere in every human, pretty much all humans. So what if it's I can't fully get on board with the idea that we're truly seeing what they actually look like, and the mask is slipping. I do think it's highly more likely that a lot of humans, if not the majority of humans, have demons in them, legions of them. And what these people with the conditioning are seeing is the demon within an individual that is currently living through them by, using their mouth, their nose, their ears, their eyes to sense things and experience stuff. I think that's more likely what's going on. And we're just because the people who are walking around, and suddenly someone looks terrified of them, and it's like because that someone sees the demon within them. I'm sure these people are like, what's his problem? Because most possessed people don't know they've got a problem. They don't realize there's a demon in them, influencing them to do things which are pretty bad in order for the demon to get pleasure from it. They don't realize that. They think they're making those choices and that the humans are bad people, So they see that's the way I kind of see it. But a few other interesting things did get sent to me. And there is a very interesting conspiratorial line of thought surrounding all of this, which is cropping up quite a lot, which I just love, actually, and not in a... I suppose love is the wrong word, It's absolutely bloody terrifying, is what this theory is, and not good at all for humanity if it's true. And actually, what's coming is going to be extremely, extremely scary if this theory is true. But as a conspiracy theorist who just loves hearing the wild and wacky things out there, this one's cool. Okay, this particular theory is it's up there. And it's going along with the idea that the coming eclipse on April the 8th is going to make this happen to a lot of people. A lot of people are suddenly going to start seeing demon faces. And people are suddenly going to start having the ability to see the spirit realm once the eclipse comes, or perhaps during the eclipse as well. I know there's varying theories on the idea. And the precedence for this theory... well, it's quite weak, actually, when you actually think about it. But it's not something we should just pass off based on how the occult work. So predictive programming, as we know, they tend to show us the truth in fictional formats in order for us not only to internalize things as fictional when they happen to us in real life, but also to show us their plans in some sort of weird karmic way of brainwashing us and preparing us for it before it happens. So when the thing does happen, we've already been preconditioned to accept it as normal because we saw it on a TV show once. So it's multifaceted why they show us these things in media. But people have been showing me a song from a band called, I think it's Smash Mouth, if I remember correctly, called Black Hole Sun. Right. Now, before I carry on, let me just get up the old Telegram and show you where this was sent to me and what got this going. Okay, so all appropriate dues can go to the right people here, shall we say? So if I share screen, so here it is. Here's the Telegram group. And Sky Pondering sent me this saying, does anyone remember the song... Oh, sorry, guys, my laptop just slipped. Let me just fix that quickly, sorry. He says, does anyone remember the song Black Hole Sun by... Sorry, Soundgarden, Smash Mouth. What am I talking about? Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. The symbolism is staunch, including morphing faces into demon clowns during a Black Sun Sky event. And the lyrics are just downright in your face. If you know the history of Chris Cornell, it makes this even more saucy. Anyone hearing the whole music vid? Some screenshots and the lyrics. So, here's the lyrics. In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises, no one knows, hides the face, lies the snake. And the sun in my disgrace, boiling heat, summer stench, neath the black... The sky looks dead, call my name through the cream, and I'll hear you scream again. Black hole sun, won't you come, and wash away the rain? Black hole sun, won't you come? Stuttering cold and damp, steel and warm wind. Tired friend, times are gone for honest men, sometimes far too long for snakes. In my shoes, walking sleep, in my youth I pray to keep. Heaven send, hell away. No one sings like you anymore. Anyway, whatever. It's the first paragraph, the first stanza, whatever you want to call this, the first verse that really gives a hint that, in my eyes indisposed, In disguise, no one knows. Hides the face, lies the snake. So this is basically saying, I can see with my eyes the hidden snake beneath people, which disguises them. Okay, which, remember what I was telling you, these things here, people have reptilian-like features hidden underneath, and is he hinting that this guy knows about the hidden reptilians under the masks? And then, is the black hole sun event going to reveal the truth to people? And you got to take these things seriously again, because the way predictive programming works, And then here's some screenshots from the thing, and look, wide grinned, bulging eyes, demonic faces coming through during the black hole sun event. Was this hinting at these things will become more visible and people will start actually looking like this during the event? Is that what was actually going on? Very clown-like there, with the red lip makeup and everything like this. Is the true Nephilim features about to manifest? Is that what's going on? And here's the Soundgarden album. And look, the ears on this thing, the big wide mouth, the crook nose that this silhouette is creating. Is that not basically the bloody same as these things? With the pointed ears, and the big wide mouth. It's like, what do they know? What the hell does Soundgarden know that we don't know from like years ago? Is it possible this coming event, whatever this thing is? Because I don't buy that eclipses are really caused by the moon going in front of the sun. I really don't buy it. I don't think that's what's going on, because no one can ever see the moon before it hits the sun. No one ever sees it. It never happens. And I've heard rumors that you can actually see where the moon's supposed to be during the time of the eclipse, and it's nowhere near the sun. According to certain apps or something, but I don't know if there's any validity to that. I never bothered to check that claim myself. But yeah, something's off there, And whatever an eclipse actually is, I think it's a highly spiritually charged event. Sure, I absolutely do. And there's so much surrounding this coming eclipse right now that's freaking people out. With the National Guard on standby for some kind of event as well in these areas, passing through, 6 places called Nineveh, creating the Alpha and Omega symbol where the paths cross from the previous eclipses in October or something like that. I can see it's just getting pretty trippy, and there's a lot of symbolism surrounding this thing everywhere. So maybe, I've heard somebody say, whenever an eclipse happens, we're told we're supposed to wear these special glasses so we don't damage our eyes, right? But people say, well, don't wear the glasses. That's a lie. Wearing the glasses stops you from being able to see something they don't want you actually seeing, is what people are saying right now. And people are claiming the shadow that gets cast during this point creates a wavy ripple effect everywhere, as though you're seeing the waters above reflecting onto the ground below. And it creates a really psychedelic effect everywhere. And maybe during the eclipse, the spirit realm does become visible more so, or the etheric energies of the astral realms start to merge with the physical properties of the physical realm in a psychedelic way. And if you took the glasses off, maybe, and looked around, maybe it's like you're tripping balls on 12 tabs of acid without having to take the 12 tabs of acid. Just temporarily, then as soon as the eclipse ends, you go back to normal, Maybe that's what happens. Who really knows? Who actually knows? But I just thought it was odd that the black hole sun symbolism in this song, talking about hidden reptilians disguised under faces, with a music video showing an eclipse, then people with huge, wide, grinning, terrifying-looking smiles, is all connected to what's coming out recently. And people are also arguing, well, the reason they're covering this so much right now and created a quote-unquote disorder, called demon face syndrome, is because they're trying to gaslight people into not talking about what they're seeing when it comes. Because people are about to start seeing this a hell of a lot more. There's going to be thousands of more cases cropping up where people are seeing demonic faces everywhere, maybe after this event, after this thing. And they're just trying to prepare for that eventuality by saying, oh no, you just have a mental disorder. You're not really seeing demons. It's just this thing we know everything about. It's a perfectly understood genetic mental condition, and nothing to worry about. Here, just take all these medications and you'll be fine, When the truth is, this hasn't happened really, or at least not been made mainstream at all until recently. I'm sure there's always been people who have been able to see beyond the veil and see demon faces, especially when they take hell of amounts of drugs and alcohol. I'm sure that people are always slipping their vision into the spirit realm accidentally and getting traumatized as a result. I'm sure it happens all the time. But for it to be formalized into a syndrome just this year tells me they're preparing for something. Is odd, isn't it? It's very odd. We know it's odd. We know this doesn't make any sense. So let's see. Maybe we should be preparing for something very, very, very trippy to happen very, very soon. I mean, just for posterity's sake. Let me just get this up. Sorry for the tapping, guys. I'm sure we all remember Crazy Plane Lady, right? This wasn't that long ago, but you know what we're like with our short attention spans this day and age. I bet this feels like it was 5 years ago to most of you. But what was it, really? Like 7 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe 6 months ago? I bet it wasn't even that long ago. I bet even I'm warping my time perceptions right now. I bet this wasn't that long ago at all when this happens. Let's just find that guy's not real play. I should have put Crazy Plane Lady in or something instead. The 10th of August 2023. So it's a bit prior to that. August, was it like summer? Was it July 2023? So not even that long ago, when this happened. But what did she say? That guy, paraphrasing, is not real. She was freaking out, saying, that guy over there, he is not real, man. Don't tell me otherwise. Get me off this plane right now. She saw something, all right? And then some actress turns up afterwards explaining how, I don't know, trying to explain it away somehow. That may be her, may not be her. It was certainly a woman who looks like her, dressed in the identical clothing she decided to wear on the plane that day. But some people say she was a shill or a plant. This is all just I theorize this is just gaslighting us. They want us to really get into this, and there she is doing the as above, so below symbol, which she was apparently doing at some point, which indicated that she's totally in on it. She's a full on involved paid shill actress. Is that the actress they got to come and play her and saying this is not actually the same woman, it's just a look-alike, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, was this the precursor to, this thing happening? So have they been pre-prepping us for this sort of thing for a while? You know what I mean? You don't want to look like a crazy plane lady, do you? You don't want to people thinking you're nuts. You better keep your mouth shut. You've just got a syndrome. You've just got a mental disorder. Clearly you just need to keep your mouth shut if you see anything. You don't want us to make a public spectacle of you like what happened to this Gomez woman, do you? You don't want to end up another crazy plane lady. Nobody wants to be crazy plane lady and have memes made about you, do you? Keep your mouth shut if you see anything. That's kind of what this is. That's what this is. Oh yeah, and of course, the Nephilim-looking Carrot Top was on the plane during that time, apparently, or so he claims. Whatever. The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing's nuts. But look at this Joker. What a creep. What a weirdo. Don't really know anything about the guy, but he just looks strange, doesn't he? Who wants to dress like this? Guy's channeling something, is what I'll say. I'm not saying he is a Nephilim, but he's definitely dressing like one to channel them for something. But yeah, there we go. So there's just some thoughts on that particular subject matter. I was mulling around what people have sent to me, just a bit of extra. If you haven't already, maybe go and check out. Let me just show you what I've got here. If you don't know already, guys. My videos. Yeah, I did this one recently. If you haven't seen it yet. Nothing look like clowns. Extra demon face syndrome. It's done quite well, actually, in 23 hours. I'm quite surprised by that. But I basically lay out all my basic ideas and thoughts around this, in this one. But this is just a few extras, just a few extra thoughts that people have brought to me. I thought I'd show you the black hole sun thing as well. But I go into the whole trauma and how the Nephilim did look like clouds. Now this seems to be more proof of the same thing. and how we went through a mass traumatic event, which may have opened people up more to seeing demons. But I think it's definitely worth mentioning the whole coming event, which may thin the veil. It may cause something. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. Well, time will tell, eh? But no fear, guys. These are a defeated enemy at the end of the day. We still have authority over them in Jesus Christ. Never forget that power that we have. I think this is why they aren't so brazen about revealing themselves, because they are aware that there are people out there who could easily dominate them spiritually if they even attempted it, you know. So there you go. What do you guys think about that? Let's come to the chat. I'll just let the slideshow roll in the background while I'm talking here. Let's go to the chat. Let's see what's being said. I got a super chat from Ben Foyle Hat. He says, Old World Florida channel said he was in Texas for the last eclipse and it killed his batteries and solar panel equipment. Oh, fascinating. That sounds absolutely terrifying as well. Yeah, there's something trippy about eclipses. I think I've seen one in my entire life when I was a child. When I was in the Canary Islands or something. And I remember wearing the glasses for the event. But you know, as a child, you don't know what's going on. What was I, 6, 8 years old or something? I just went along with the crowd, you know. But if I was an adult now and got to witness a real eclipse again, I would be paying so much attention. I'd have the glasses off. I'd be staring directly at it. I'd be looking around at the floor and everything else. I'd be checking everything, you know, just to see what the hell is going on and what's this really all about. I'd be looking for where the moon is. I'd be checking apps to see the position of the moon and all this stuff. I'd be doing it all now. What else is going on? Yeah, so Jar Jar Abraham says, the lyrics of this always intrigued me. Just even black hole sun, which may refer to the literal black sun or Saturn, which has caused an apocalypse or something. Yeah, I always assume whenever you hear black hole sun, it's always representing Saturn. But maybe it's just as simple as eclipse. Maybe it's just a lot more simple than Saturn. That tiny dot in the sky, you know. And I know a lot of people believe Saturn used to be really, really big and really close and dominated the sky as the original sun in the past. But I'm not 100% certain that was actually ever a reality. I know the Thunderbolts project might say otherwise, but that does not fit the biblical cosmology in the slightest. I think that's a bit of a cover-up, if you ask me. Shouldn't we be able to see the moon go away right after totality? Absolutely, it's trippy, isn't it? The man, Vincent S., first diagnosed with this so-called disease, his name means conqueror, interpreter. Found that interesting. Yeah, there's an image there of one of the guys who came forward, and he's wearing the shaman clothing like a hatman. He's got a big long trench coat on, and he's wearing a cowboy style top hat. So I do wonder who this character really is and what's really going on. I can't look at that picture on the screen. Creepy. It is creepy. I hope you guys like this. I did this, you know. I'm the one who blended the normal and the demonic face together for both of these people. So I think I'm the first to do this from what I saw online. But yeah, it's trippy, isn't it? This is printed in a Soundgarden CD. The same backwards and forwards. Satan oscillates my metallic sonatas. It's a palindrome, is it? Yeah, it's a palindrome. Oh, well, okay, well that's absolutely terrifying. So these guys are fully in line with Satan then, and whatever's going on. April 9th, 2021, the dead prince who wanted to return as a virus, Prince Philip. Okay, I don't know what that means, Esley. Sounds very cryptic though, whatever you're talking about. Wide-mouthed frog people, absolutely. Yeah, like frogs come out of the mouth of the false prophet, was it? Something like that, is that what it says? I saw 3 beasts like frogs. I just worry for my children. It's evil out there, and that's for sure, yeah. Apparently, a lot of people said their equipment went dodgy during the eclipse. I have PTSD and will report back after the 8th, says Matthew. Let me know how it goes down. Absolutely. Wow, that video and these photos are crazy, says Kathleen Cassidy. Yeah, I remember my phone drained very quickly trying to record it. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat now. I'll get to the bottom, see what's going on. By the way, guys, if anybody wants to call in, and we can have a bit of a back and forth and talk about whatever's on your mind, please let me know. Wow, Smash Mouth. So I've gone right back to the top. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's Soundgarden now in hindsight. I don't actually know. I didn't care about either band. It's just off the cuff. My memory hole there. But yeah, I don't know bands or people or music or that type of thing. But there we go. We got there in the end, didn't we? Soundgarden. What else is going on? Let's get to the bottom of the chat. My equipment has always been fine during eclipses, says Wendy. Well, that's good. Solid equipment there. It's like Tessia's facial cleft classification in plastic surgery. I have no idea what that means, Jason Jack, but it sounds complicated. Right. Yeah, so if anyone wants to call in, let's do this. Let's do this, guys. Let's have a conversation. I could keep talking to the end of the earth if you want me to, but I would like to have a conversation with people. Now, let me just check the Telegram. Has anyone sent me any messages anywhere at all, into the Telegram that is indicating that they might want to get involved or call in and have a conversation? Please let me know. Let's go to the announcements section. That's where you'll let me know. Go to the announcement section of Telegram, say, Paul, I want to call, and I'll send you a link and we'll get on it. If not, you can send me an email to understandingconspiracy@gmail.com and we'll get you on, okay? We'll get it sorted. It looks like people have been sending me the shipping information and the book choice as well online. That's great. Someone's talking about near-death experiences. So is that you right now, Jordan Sassa? Are you asking to come on and share your near-death experience with me? Is that what you want to do? Or you want to call in and share your near-death experience? Let me know if that's what you want to do, or are you just telling me that this happened to you? Is that all this is? I need to know if you want to call in or if you're just saying stuff. Any clarification would be greatly appreciated on that in the emails. It looks like a lot of people have been sending me emails about the book, which is good. That's great. I'm getting some information in now. If just another reminder for those listening, if you did pre-order the Nephilim Look Like Clowns book, and you donated £100 or more to the GoFundMe, I need your shipping address, and I need your choice between Volume 1, signed and sent to you in a few months, or do you want to wait a year and have Volumes 1 and 2 combined, signed and sent to you instead? You can only pick one, so let me know your choice. Email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com, and please let me know which one you want, okay? Volume 1 or combined volumes 1 and 2 with your shipping address. I need the shipping address, okay? This is time sensitive. If it comes to publishing and you guys still haven't told me which one you want, I'm just going to assume you want to wait another year for the final copies, okay? What else is going on? People, Raw with Jesus says, I do feel something is coming. I think we all feel like something is coming, but I've been feeling like something is coming for like a decade now. Maybe things have come, for all I know. Maybe things have come. At Elizabeth said she will call, says Anne-Marie Miller. Where is that? Who's at Elizabeth? Is that in the Discord? Is that where she said? I don't know who at Elizabeth is. If at Elizabeth wants to email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com and tell me she's interested, I can send her a link. But Elizabeth, you have to let me know, what do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? What is the topic you want to discuss first? It's my minor screening process because I do not have a producer who can screen my calls for me. Bullcrap, she saw something, says Aura. Absolutely. Then she recanted. Crazy plain lady saw something. I believe you. After this, I saw another angel with great authority coming down from heaven, and the earth was illuminated with his splendor. And he called out in a mighty voice, "It has fallen. Babylon the Great has fallen," says Young Ant. Certainly. Art says, "Can I call?" Art, you can call. I know who Art is. He is a regular, and I know him. Art, absolutely, you can call me. You're in the Telegram, so there he is. I will call. Art, I will send you a link. We'll do it via Skype. All you have to do is click the Skype link, and it will send you straight in to talk with me. Okay, so let me start a call. Calls. He says, "No, I don't want to try Eclipse. What is this? Why has everything changed? I want to start a call." Sorry, Skype has decided to be an absolute bloody nightmare all of a sudden, and now it's making everything 10 times more difficult than it needs to be. The quick actions used to be start a call, and now it's saying, try sharing a clip. I don't want to share a clip. I want to meet now, host a meeting. There we go. I've got the link for that, Art. Starting the call. I'm going to send you that message privately, Art, in Telegram. So check your side messages on Telegram, and you'll see that I have personally sent you a link, which will bring you specifically into the conversation with me on Skype. And I'm going to wait here tentatively for you to join while I find my headphones to plug in so we don't get some nasty feedback while we're discussing. So bear with me. And yeah, I hope you've brought your A game, because we've got like 250 people listening or something like that. So you better have brought something good to talk about. I'm relying on you here. I'm banking on you. Or we can just talk about anything at all. You know, I'm a chilled guy, so no pressure. Right, there we go. So I await Art's entrance into Skype. I've sent you the link. Let me know when you've joined. In the meantime, I'm gonna talk to the chat, see what's going on. TN Hippie says the eclipse in 1810, I believe, caused an earthquake in 1811 and 1812 that formed Reelfoot Lake in TN over the fault line. So how does an eclipse in 1810 cause earthquakes 1 and 2 years later? Something you're going to have to clarify that to me. What is an eclipse? Investigating Babylon, the presentation channel, Kingdom in Context, timestamp. Okay. God is allowing all to see, to bring people to repentance and receive our Lord Jesus Christ. Says the Godfidence channel. I like that. The Godfidence channel. That's pretty clever. I like that one. A Call for an Uprising did a video about this. A Call for an Uprising does a video about everything. The guy is obsessed with making videos on multiple channels. For obvious reasons, I know he's heavily censored, and that guy's been in the game for as long as I can remember. Yeah, I'm sure he has made a video about this. Well, what topic has he not made a video about? Normally, I don't think a floating city causes the eclipses. No, it doesn't seem that way. We were deaf programmed, but for those who are awake and are aware of the programming, I think this is very real for us now. We see things differently than the masses. Certainly, I think people like ourselves have... it's harder to fool us now, that's for sure. Eclipses are not mentioned in the Bible. It's an unnatural phenomena, says Nomi. Interesting concept. Very interesting concept. Now we're talking about the US being split in half here. I don't know about that. Love that Joker. Right, so come on, Art, where are you? Are you joining us or what? What's going on? Are you joining? Are you in? You're still not there. It says 1 of 2 in the call, so something's happening. I'll let you figure that out. I'll let you get to grips with whatever's happening with yourself there. You just say hello when you're in, and I will get you on, Art. Absolutely. Oh, well, that's gutting. It says my phone battery is about to die. I didn't consider my battery. Sorry to be anticlimactic. That is anticlimactic. You had my hopes up there. I thought we were gonna have a real cool conversation. You know, I thought that was it. I thought that's what was about to happen. You know what? I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try something different. All right. This is just an idea. I'm gonna see if this works. Okay. It may not. I don't know. But there is this feature on Telegram where I can start a voice call. I can start a voice call on there, and anybody can join in the conversation, just have a back and forth, okay? I think I may start one now and just see if anyone on the Telegram wants to hop in and start talking. If you're on Telegram, you can do it straight through Telegram. You don't have to join anything, you don't have to do anything, it's just going to be sat there at the top of the screen. Oh, hang on. I spoke too soon. Art, are you there? You're extremely quiet. Try again. Try. I can hear you. I can hear you now. I'm sure the guys can hear you now as well. Say hello.
Hello.
Close enough. What can I do for you, Art? What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind?
No, just you mentioned the Soundgarden song, Black Hole Sun.
Oh, yeah?
And, you know, I don't want to spread any kind of misinformation, but I heard that, firstly, the lead singer, he died quite a while back, I think a couple of years ago or so, or like maybe like 2-3 years ago. And he was working on a documentary before he died. And the documentary was about like human trafficking. I don't know if that's the kind of thing I can talk about on the show.
Yeah, yes and no, not really.
Okay. You know what? How about this? How about I talk to you in the chat and then go over it with you first, and then I can call back another time.
No, this is relevant. You know, you can keep talking. It's all right. Just try and be clever with the way you phrase things. Say things without actually saying them, and see how that works.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the line is terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Let's just close that. Let's try a different method. Art, I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try this through Zoom. I feel like Zoom has a much better audio quality. Or if in fact you're on Telegram, aren't you? You are on Telegram. Let's try and do this through Telegram, Art, instead. All right. So on my, let me just get this set up. It's really difficult to do on here, but if more, when we'll do a video chat. Okay, so I currently now, you guys may be able to see, I have created a video chat for all in Telegram to participate in. We can get multiple people in this room. It should be at the top of the Telegram. It should be there. It says 1 participant. That is me. Okay? If you want to join that instead, Art, if you want to join that at the top, maybe we can get a decent sound quality through that instead. And maybe we can get a bit of conversation going. But if anyone else is also a member of the Telegram, wants to join that little bar at the top of the Telegram, maybe we can get a conversation, a group conversation going on there. I'm trying new things here. I'm seeing what sticks. You know, I'm trying different methods to make this call-in show work and more interesting. So let me know if anyone at all wants to join. Just join at the top there. I'll start hearing you. Everyone else will start hearing you talk as well. I see people are online. I can see plenty of people are online right now on Telegram who may want to jump on and just share their thoughts and feelings. Corbear, you're even there as well. I can see you're online. Wendy's online. We've got Alkaline online as well. All the regular faces. Hop on. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's have a back and forth. Let's see what people are thinking about it. But go to the Telegram group and join the video call at the top. You do not have to use video. It can be audio only. And there will be no video on my show anyway if you do join. So there we go, guys. We're going to try that. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to the chat, see what's going on. I don't think... Let me just check my emails. Alison Warden wants to call in to talk about Inuit shamanism. Let's give that a go, shall we? In the meantime, I don't think anyone's latching on to the Telegram option, which is a shame. Or do we? Oh, hang on, I've got Alkaline here. Let's try Alkaline. Are you with me? Let me try this. Alkaline, are you with me? Are you there? You gonna talk? You gonna join? You gonna help with the live show? No? Yes? It says you're listening, but I don't hear any speaking. You might need to click your microphone to make it activated, if you haven't already. Do we have Alkaline here in the Telegram chat? Tell you what, I'll give him 5 seconds. He's typing something. Audio is bugging. Okay, I don't know what to tell you about that. I have no idea what's going on there.
Hello?
Hello, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I think you're coming through on my audio. Yeah, what's on your mind, Alkaline? What do you want to talk about?
Okay. I was at look. I've been looking at this for a long time. I was just about to send it in the chat actually, but I was looking at some of the pagan perspective, on how they see this whole many gods sort of thing. I think I told you earlier, maybe a week ago, that I was going to send you a clip from a podcast about this guy. He was talking to a pagan, and they're actually talking about the rituals that they do and how they actually do communicate with these entities that claim to be these gods. And some of them claim to be Christian gods. One of them met Beelzebub, supposedly, and it seems that they do actually have power to heal people and give them marginal success in their lives and things like that. So I was just about to send it before I found out that you were live right now.
Right. Well, do you want to expand on that a bit more? Do you want to give us as much detail as you can on that? Share it live now if you want. That's fine.
Yeah, actually, I'll still send it. If what channel would be best to
You can
put
send
this
it. You
in,
can send it.
actually?
You can send it on Telegram, and I'll just share the screen with everybody. If
Okay.
there's anything you want to actually share. Drunk
Oh,
Wedding Photographer has just asked me to activate gifting subscriptions, and I'm not going to lie, Drunk Wedding Photographer, I have no idea how to do that. So I'm looking now, sorry. But while you get those together, let me just quickly try and sort that out. Yeah, I can't seem to activate that myself, Drunk Wedding Photography. I apologise. I don't know what I can do possibly to make that a reality. I'm sure I've seen people gift subscriptions already, so the option should be there to do that. I find it odd that you can't do that. But yeah, never mind, Alkaline. What have you got there? Well, let's show it. I'm going to bring up Telegram. Do you want to send that
right.
to the announcements page on Telegram?
I sent it to the general page.
General, okay.
It's loading. Yeah, it's loading right now. So in the meantime, I do remember our conversation from earlier about Revelation. I'd be really excited to see you do a series on the Book of Revelation, maybe chapter by chapter. There's a lot there, but I've been reading it and I've been thinking, namely about that picture from the news clip, Nuremberg, I think it was in
Yes.
1500s thereabout. But usually, in contemporary Christian thought, Christendom, as you've named it, the fall of the 1/3 of the angels is usually placed right before the Garden of Eden. Satan or Lucifer at the time convinces 1/3 of the angels to rebel, and then they get cast out of heaven, and then the Genesis chapter 2 sort of starts from there. But that the Bible doesn't actually support that. If you read Revelation, which is where we get that passage of the dragon sweeping 1/3 of the angels from the sky, this is placed right after Christ's ascension into heaven. If I think it's Revelation chapter 12,
Yes.
where it says that there's a woman. John saw. Let me go directly to it so I don't misquote. Yes, there we go. If you would allow me to read, I can just read it straight.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right. And it says, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. So I would assume that this is talking about Israel. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. So, this is the ascension of Christ, the one who is meant to rule the nations with a rod of iron, the one who was born of Israel. He was caught up to God and his throne. And then in verse 6, it says, then the woman fled into the wilderness where she was placed, where she has a place.
Oop. I think we've lost you there, Alkaline. Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, I've got you again.
Sorry.
You're back. You're back. Go ahead.
All right.
He says. Odd. Yeah, I can hear you again.
Okay. Sorry about that. Verse 7 says, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the war in heaven, rather than being placed between Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, it's actually, at least it seems to be, right after the ascension of Christ. And it seems to be in response to what he did, taking the keys of death and Hades from, the great dragon that has been tormenting humanity for all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because I remember you showed me, well, not just me, everybody, the newspaper clipping with let me see if I still have the picture. Nuremberg, all those flashing lights, that whole celestial phenomenon that was going on, the giant black spear and orbs and this really psychedelic vision in the sky that everybody could see. And it looked like war in heaven. And we know that the timeline's been all messed up and, they should probably be placed closer to when Jesus's ascension was. But I couldn't help but look back on that and think that could that be what that was? Could that be what the people were seeing? War in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I can send the picture again. I'll put it in general. Oh, and the videos have come up. If you'd like to screen share those. But yeah, this is I sent the picture in the general chat again as well.
Yeah.
But the videos I sent were from a podcast. It's a Mormon podcast, so they don't quite believe everything that we believe, but they're kind of like you in a lot of ways, where they dig into a lot of things that aren't generally accepted by the people of their faith. They come to a lot of the same conclusions that you do and the people in the Telegram group do, but they just happen to view those conclusions through a Mormon lens. Just take that for what you will. But I found this particular podcast to be very, very interesting because one of them had a friend who grew up in sort of Norse pagan family. He was raised that way, and his experiences, his encounters, I find them to be really, really interesting. I've always wondered, how do things look from the other side for people who actually, like, this is the reality to them. We call these things Greek mythology, Roman mythology, but for them, like, this is real, like this is genuine history.
Mm-hmm.
This is their actual everyday life. So I was really curious, and I thought maybe you guys would enjoy watching what he had to say. So
Sure. Well, I'll press play and let's listen. Let's see what's going on.
yeah.
Statue was not what they were worshiping. The statue represented the god they would see when they partook of a certain substance, like shrooms, ayahuasca, peyote, the substances in which names we don't even have for right now.
Okay.
So I came across neo-pagan Twitter and I saw them talking about this.
Oh,
and then
neo-pagan Twitter. It's
very,
called?
very weird place. Very weird.
Okay,
place.
Cool.
And then I also started talking to my new friend from Idaho, who was raised Norse pagan,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And he started telling me a lot about what it's like to be raised Norse pagan and what it's like to take certain substances during certain ceremonies. And I was like, okay, so this is like the Joe Rogan-y stuff, like you're seeing the DMT elves and things like that. He says, well, I mean, if you take DMT, but what we would take, it's called goop.
Wait, it's called goop.
It's called goop. Like Gwyneth Paltrow's company is called goop. I don't think she realizes like the correlation. Maybe she does.
Okay.
But goop, it's literally a formula that goes back to European Norse paganism, and it's the thing you take to see the Norse gods.
Really?
It is a hallucinogenic substance.
Okay.
But here's the crazy thing: they take it in a they would take it together, and they all see the same one.
Really?
So yeah, and so that's
a
how
group
Right.
experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so people often assume, well, maybe the hallucinogenic drugs, they're just seeing whatever kind of chemicals that their mind's unleashing at some time, so you'll all see different
But
things.
then
No.
why would they all see the same thing?
Exactly. And that's how they knew with these statues and these altars they would build. They knew, okay, the substance is here, I'm going to talk to Athena. The substance is here, I'm going to talk to Zeus. The substance is here, I'm going to talk to whoever. This is how they were communicating with pagan gods. And this is the reason why God forbids carvings and images and statues of him in the Old Testament, out of fear that someone could trick you and say, oh yeah, come talk to Yahweh. And instead, you got an imposter god.
Okay, so you're saying that your buddy who was raised Norse pagan
Yeah.
had informed you that the reason why there's actual idols and statues, physical representations of the gods,
Yes.
was because as the group partook of this substance, they would all then see that god specifically.
Right.
So that statue was the physical portal, or it would usher in that experience.
Oh, I'm not
And-
even saying that.
Okay.
Think of it as a store or a sign. Because
Yes.
the statues weren't just built in the street, like they were built and there was an altar.
Yeah.
They would have, so okay, if I want to go to the Zeus store and I want to talk to Zeus, right there.
And that's why the temples were built to these gods, because then when people would come, they
Yes.
could, interesting.
But again, that nails in the point. People want to know why God is against these graven images. It's not because he's afraid of statues.
Because they're actual physical portals to seeing these deity with whom he has to compete, and he is a jealous god. Therefore,
I would
not
say more,
even-
he doesn't want his children to be tricked.
Yeah.
Because if someone says this is the statue of Yahweh, but it's actually the goop that makes you see Hades, you're going to forever be in religious and spiritual confusion. So it was a form of trickery that pagans were using against Abrahamists.
Interesting.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah. So as I start pouring into this, I'm like, okay, so the pagan gods are real. They're absolutely real. These are not just because they kind of tell you, oh, well, the Greeks and Romans didn't. It was like the Marvel movies. They appreciated it part of our
Well,
culture.
it's interesting
No.
how Christians will all of a sudden say, like, oh, well, believe in Greek gods. That's stupid. But our pantheon of deity with archangels, regular angels.
Yeah.
That
Ares, the god of
pantheon is
war.
fine.
That's silly. Here's Michael the archangel.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Interesting. And shall we get the next one played as well? Is it the same? Is it slightly different?
It expounds more. This one expounds on an actual encounter that he had with
This
these
study that I've been
supposed
doing is
gods.
making me understand the
And
atonement
this
way
one
more.
I think you'll find quite interesting.
Okay, let's give it a go.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first is this. Okay, so I guess I'm not giving names, so I guess it's fine to talk.
Oops, sorry. Let's try that again.
This study that I've been doing is making me understand the atonement way more. So,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
So first is this. Okay, so I guess I'm not giving names, so I guess it's fine to talk about. My friend, he saw multiple of these gods when he would take these substances, but he also at
I
one
want to
point,
meet this guy.
yeah, at one point he also saw Beelzebub,
Really?
which was
What?
yeah, which is really really weird. He saw Beelzebub,
Wait, is this the guy where you said he was interested in becoming a Christian?
yeah, because of this,
Because in his
Yeah.
paganism he met Beelzebub?
yeah.
Wow, okay.
But he didn't know much about Christianity because of the way he was raised. And so he meets Beelzebub and he says, my name's well, he says Beelzebub and my friend mispronounces it. And Beelzebub got really, really angry. He's like, no, it's Beelzebub. That's how you're supposed to say it. He's like, okay, sorry. He's like, who are you? He goes, I'm a Christian god. That's what he told him.
Oh, interesting.
Which technically is true, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
not. And my friend he had a lot of trauma he was raised with and stuff. Like hard childhood, things like that. And Beelzebub said, let me make you a promise. If you agree to house all of my moths, then I'll take all your trauma.
Well, and it's important. I think there was a detail. I believe you've mentioned this before. There was a detail that, like, there's a predominant theory that Satan, since he is the god of all things counterfeit, and evil tries to make counterfeit versions of beautiful things, that, like, flies are the counterfeit creation
Yeah,
of
I'm getting there. I'm
honeybees,
getting there.
and
Yeah.
moths are the counterfeit creation of butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Beelzebub has moths.
Well, that's what I was getting to, but you ruined it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh,
You
Well,
gotta tell these things in order, Doc.
I am.
Okay.
So he says, how's all my moths? It's
Okay.
like, okay, sure. He's thinking I was like a beekeeper or something, whatever.
Okay,
It's worth
yeah,
all-
yeah.
So after the trip, he's like, okay, well, is my trauma gone? He stopped having panic attacks, stopped having PTSD. It's like, whoa, I literally don't have it. But he started having dreams where he would literally see his body and his eyes would open and moths would be crawling out of his eyelids, coming out of his mouth, coming out of his
Gosh, oh,
nose.
that's so
And he
gross.
realized the deal was to house his moths inside of his body. And he Googled after and found that Beelzebub was like the demon god of the moths.
Really?
And
Oh,
that
I'm looking
moths
this
were
up.
his eyes and ears on the earth, and that's how he was able to like spy on
shoot.
people.
Wait, so moths are Beelzebub's eyes and ears?
Yeah, they're
on
counterfeit
Earth?
butterflies.
Whoa. Okay, so
Yeah.
keep going. What else happened?
So tells me that one, tells me a couple others. And then I do some research and start talking to a couple other people who are in this field.
Okay.
And there's a lot of names I'm not allowed to really give because, you know, people want to remain slightly anonymous with this kind of,
Yeah,
you know.
I hear you.
But one of the gentlemen I was talking to talked to me about how the gods and the trips all acknowledged who the worst one was.
Really?
Yeah. The worst one. And we're talking a couple, two different pagans. Well, two different people who were taking these drugs. Different parts of America. Okay? They acknowledged they exist on a spectrum. And there are gods that we don't really recognize in our modern day, even in mythology or fantasy or anything like that. We just don't even know who they are. They're kind of in different universes and different planets and stuff.
Okay.
But he says the best out of all of them, that they all agree is the best, is Jehovah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because our God is an awesome God. Actually,
Like,
yeah,
he's
he's
literally-
awesome. The awesome.
The most moral out of all of them. And the most immoral has a name we don't really know, so we call him Satan. We call him the devil. We make up a name for him
yeah.
because we don't really know. And then there's the demons that are like kind of before him, but they're also gods, right? These are all just spiritually powerful beings. But you get the best one and the worst one. And then you got like Roman, Greek gods, all those people, they're just in the middle.
In between,
Yeah.
along the way.
Okay.
And basically, they make deals with people. And they've been making deals with pagans for thousands of years. A lot of the deals get weirdly sexual. Like, someone says, I really want to be rich, and Zeus says, fine, you'll be rich. Does everyone in your family agree? Yeah, okay, I get your wife in the next life. And then he dies. A guy will die, and his wife will die, and he'll literally see, like, Zeus having sex with his wife, and he can't, like, he's not allowed to, like, be near her. Stuff like that.
Oh,
like, really
gosh.
dark, you know, stuff. Where a lot of these tales come from, these Greek tragedies, it literally comes from
Yeah,
deals
about-
people made with gods. Because, you know,
like how many times did Zeus come down?
Interesting. So what do you think about all of that then? What's your takeaway from all that information?
Man, I got no idea. I was kind of blown away. I wasn't sure what to make of it, which is why I wanted to send it to you. But it lines up with quite a few things. And if you watch I suggest everybody, you know, if you have time, watch the full podcast. Again, take everything with a grain of salt. You know, test all things. But I thought it was very interesting. It does tie in with a lot of Greek mythology, Greek tragedies, all of these stories from all sorts of mythologies. They always have to do with, you know, making deals with these gods being real, them having, you know, actual power, interacting with human beings in this way, and things like that. So I just thought that was
Yeah, I mean, hearing that about them, you know, moths are counterfeit butterflies. That's trippy. That's a trippy concept. You know what I mean? And that the whole earth may be covered in things that are just counterfeits to God's creation, like flies or counterfeit bees and things like this, or wasps, should I say, are like counterfeit bees. All the predatory evil ones, like are kind of the counterfeits of the good ones that pollinate. And that I never thought about that before.
Yeah, me neither. And it did say when Genesis 6, when he was talking about the days of Noah and how, you know, they were sinning against the animals and all these things, we think of genetic manipulation, and sometimes we don't actually think about what that might mean. You know, the extent of what that could be. You know, it might not just be crossing and splicing things that already exist, but trying to create new things. You know, trying to make things that aren't already there. I sent some I sent some videos of the octopus in one of the channels in the chat, because I was just, you know, looking at them, and it's really a strange creature, like a very, very strange creature. I sent it to the clowns chat in the channel.
Let me just check that. I haven't had a chance to check Telegram much today, but I do remember seeing something to do with octopuses being posted, actually, so let me just quickly check. I always thought octopi are extremely creepy, terrifying looking monsters with crazy powers. They have mental powers, don't they, to like change colour instantly. I agree.
Yeah,
So
they're quite strange.
let me just share the screen here. There we go. So we've got some videos up that you sent of octopi. Shall we just play
As
one?
it turns out,
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
for sure. Go for it.
For starters, their ability to color and shapeshift is unmatched in the animal kingdom. For example, can you spot the octopus hiding in plain sight right here? And the only thing more impressive than that is when you slow it down and play it in reverse to see just how quickly and convincingly these changes occur. And it's not just camouflage as a form of protection, they can also mimic the shape of larger, more predatory animals like eels. And as it turns out, it's a lot.
That was terrifying. What else have we got? Yeah, these things are monsters. I agree. They're absolute monsters, aren't they?
I was saying because it's a weird composite of different things. I put a list of its defining traits just a little under the video, but it has no bones, 3 hearts, blue blood, 9 brains, and a beak. You know, I don't know of any ocean creature that has a beak, and it just, if anything screams Nephilim hybrid creation, I don't know, that would be it for me, to be honest. And you talked extensively about how the Nephilim were these psychedelic fractal patterned creatures that had the ability to shapeshift, change colors, you know, change their form, their size, potentially at will. And I was just looking at this thing, and I was like, huh, you know.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I do think, I talk a lot about, reptilian features and reptiles being extremely colourful psychedelic creatures. A chameleon has similar abilities to, let's say, this octopus. It can also change its skin to look like certain things as well, and camouflage quite easily. So this trait you see in this octopus isn't just distinctly an aquatic thing, it's also a reptilian thing. But I do think maybe many of the Nephilim weren't simply just reptilian hybrids. I think the angels had animistic properties to them. So some of them were more aquatic rather than reptilian in style. Fish gods, shall we say, rather than reptile gods. You know what I mean? And it's possible they also mixed with human women and created genetic giant offspring that had the traits of both angelic parents and human women, and the angelic parents may have been more amphibious, perhaps, rather than reptilian, So we may have seen Nephilim with more amphibious-like features, and it's possible some of the angels may have even had insectoid-like features, which are also extremely colourful and psychedelic. And we may have seen insect-human hybrid giants, which is another form of Nephilim. We may have seen it all,
I don't even want to think about what the world was like back then. But it does make me wonder, where do you think during the millennial kingdom, right? Assuming that it all happened in and around 70 AD, Christ came back. It doesn't actually speak of the fate of the angels, of the demons, of all these entities that we have to deal with, even today, where they also bound with Satan for 1,000 years. We know the false prophet and the beast were cast into the lake of fire, and Satan was supposedly bound for 1,000 years. But I wonder, were these entities, these gods and demons, were they still around during the millennial kingdom, or were they also sort of caged for a time?
Well, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim are still here today, and I don't think they went anywhere since their death. They've always been stuck in that plumbing matrix world I talk about so much, that other side of the veil where they have no bodies. I think during the millennial reign, they would have just been more of a nuisance, like a bug or an insect in the way, rather than any real threat. And it's possible once we lost our connectivity to God and Christ after the millennial kingdom, they've gained more strength and power. And now they're a nuisance again. And now they're probably more of a nuisance again. I do think this is why there needs to be a new heaven and earth, primarily. I do think this is why it's, heaven, earth as we know it is thrown into the lake of fire in the end, and then there's a new heaven and earth. I think it's because that's how you get rid of the Nephilim and the spirits, because they're trapped here on earth. They've kind of infested earth. They've corrupted it to the point of no return. And like I said, I don't think they were never supposed to be there to begin with. They're kind of like a ghost in the machine, They're a virus in a sense. And it's interesting because a lot of people just got me a train of thoughts going here. And again, this is not me giving any definitive answers to to this type of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
These are just my thoughts and processes. But people were talking about hell and eternal punishment and damnation. And there's a big lively debate about it in the Bible study group on Telegram. I just threw it in there like a grenade in there. Someone sent me a post saying, something saying like, hell is absolutely real, and without it, people would do bad things, and you need punishment for bad deeds, so therefore there has to be hell and all this type of thing. And I just sent that comment to the Telegram group and said, discuss. And they did.
And then you left.
Yeah.
You just left. You didn't come back.
I just threw a grenade in there and thought, start talking about this. I want to know what your opinions are. Because I am personally, I, like most people, struggle to square a just, loving, benevolent God who would willing to torture people for eternity. And that doesn't square to me. That doesn't make sense. And from what I've looked into it, I don't think that actually is a direct reference that it is human beings who have to suffer for eternity. I think it's the devil and the false prophet and the beast that gets thrown into the lake of fire and will suffer for eternity because they have immortal essence to them and they can't die. They're kind of going to be stuck burning forever in the lake of fire. I imagine if any other human does end up there, it's instantly destroyed, non-existence. It's not eternal torture, from what I gathered. And I think for some reason, I don't know what it is, but it's like some Christians want there to be eternal burning and torture. I don't understand the defense of that so much.
I'm really not. I'm not sure why they're so attached to it. I was here. I was here when you did that to us, Paul. I wasn't sure what you were trying to do, just dropping that and running away. But we discussed at length, and I talked about the common verses that are used to point to hell being a place of eternal torment. I talked about Revelation 20, verse 9-10, where it says, "And they went up on the breadth of the earth and encompassed the city, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone." I said that if you notice, it's specifically the devil only that is mentioned as being cast there, right? In Matthew chapter 25, verse 41, it says that the lake of fire was prepared for the devil and his angels. We were never meant. It was never meant for us to begin with.
No.
But every time eternal suffering is stated as being the fate of the wicked, it's never actually supported by a verse. It's sort of just assumed because the wicked people are talked about sort of in conjunction with the devil or the beast or whatnot. So they just kind of assume, okay, well, clearly they're both going to suffer. They're both going to suffer the same fate at the end of days. But as far as I've read, there's no verse that actually makes that claim. The strongest one would be Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 and 11, where it says, it's talking about the saints, not the saints. Yes, it's talking about the world and circling the camp of the saints, making war against God. And then they are not tormented, but afflicted with fire and brimstone. It says the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. And so people are saying, oh, clearly that's the lake of fire. But well, hang on a second. If you read the full chapter in context and the chapter following that, chapter 15, I find it personally kind of hard to come to the conclusion that that's talking about eternal suffering. In Revelation 14, verse 9-11, 3 angels are dispatched. The first one tells men to repent and believe in the gospel. The second one heralds the fall of Babylon. And the third warns men that taking the mark will result in their destruction. And it says they will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb. But Second Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 9 tells us that the lake of fire is far removed from the presence of God. So how can the lake be away from his presence, but they will be burned perpetually in his presence forever and ever? I ask people, like, if all our tears are supposed to be wiped away and there's supposed to be no more sorrow, would God put the lake of fire, a place of eternal punishment, in full view of us to sort of witness that for all eternity? Like just hearing the continuous suffering of people who, people that maybe we knew in our own lifetime, would that be really an ideal heaven and earth? I don't know, maybe, but to me, it doesn't really fit. But the judgment that is being talked about in Revelation chapter 14 is talking about the bowl judgments that are poured out on the earth. It says that the wrath of God will be poured out on them. It uses this language in chapter 14 and that same language in chapter 15. So it's not actually talking about the lake of fire. It's talking about the seven vials that are poured out on the earth, which culminates in the fire that God sends down to finally wipe out Satan and his army.
Mm.
I think you're right that the reason the angels are the ones that are tormented, are the ones that suffer for all eternity is, yes, they have an eternal essence. People make the argument that our souls are also eternal, so we also have an eternal essence. So there'd be nothing wrong with us. There'd be nothing illogical about us existing in hell forever.
But
You can make that argument.
one second,
but
isn't that a Greek notion that was more injected into Christianity way after the initial Christians, though? The concept of an eternal soul is a Greek concept. It's a Greek mythological concept, and it's kind of their worldview mixed with an odd Christianity worldview. From what I gather, the words used are destruction, not eternal suffering.
and perishing, yeah,
And perishing, destruction. Snuffed out is another good way to say it. You sure you'll hit the lake of
yeah,
fire, but you'll fizzle out and be gone. It'll be quick,
yeah.
and
I
it won't.
quoted.
And in terms of eternal burning, are they not just simply talking about the lake of fire will burn forever, not you within it?
Yeah,
This is the
yeah,
inflections I'm trying to kind of getting from it. And again, I'm not saying I have the definitive answer on this one. But what I'm saying is that the idea that a just, loving, caring God would happily let people suffer for eternity, like humans that he supposedly loves, made in his own image, that he sent his only begotten son to die for, just doesn't make much sense, and
yeah.
maybe from my perspective as a lowly, humble human, I'm not going to be able to make sense of this from his perspective. But from what I'm researching, it seems like there's like a language game that's been played here. And
Yeah.
is it annihilationism? Is that the phrase where it's not eternal suffering? It's removed from the book of life. It's no longer being around in existence. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for this, which is why I threw it into the Bible study, because I thought there's smarter people than me out there with far more knowledge who may be able to give me some insight into what the best course of action to discuss this would be. But there are a lot of
Yeah.
people. I think out of, like, from what I saw, like studies done, I think it's like 58% of Christians who were surveyed believe in a literal hell. Which isn't actually, it's still the majority of Christians. But I'm trying to figure out where did they get that idea that they would burn and suffer in hell for eternity. And a lot of it sounds like deeds-based punishment as well. You weren't good enough, so now you have to burn for eternity. And didn't Christ come to put an end to works-based salvation? Did you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think two different places in the afterlife were conflated. I think that they were, and to add to your point, actually, a quote from a pretty notable evangelical, John Scott. He said something pretty memorable. He said, "It would seem strange if people who are said to suffer destruction are in fact not destroyed. And as you put it, it is difficult to imagine a perpetually inconclusive process of perishing." And I said that the Bible always only and exclusively uses words like destruction, perishing, death, and annihilation to describe the fate of the wicked. And I'm not sure when exactly we changed those definitions from their simple meaning to eternal and continuous fiery damnation of ever conscious unrighteous sinners. Like, it seems a little too convoluted. Like, where did we get that from a word that simply means to be put to an end, permanently? I don't know, maybe that could be the case. But I feel like, and you have to ask yourself, why wasn't salvation extended to Satan, for example, right? Like that, age-old question: could the devil himself be saved? And as far as I'm aware, I don't think it's possible, because they sinned in the presence of God. Like, they saw the face of God. They were with God. They were face to face. They already knew, they had full knowledge of what they were doing. They made their decision in eternity. There was no room for ignorance or anything like that. Satan fully knowing fully well, even in his proximity to God, made his decision. And there's sort of a finality to that, and I feel like that coupled with their, sort of eternal essence, that's what rewards them their eternal punishment. I don't think the same can be said for human beings. But yeah,
Perhaps,
even
perhaps,
still,
perhaps that is a true definition of the unforgivable sin,
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, I think, yeah, I think the unforgivable sin is to know the truth, to fully know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, to know who God is, his nature, what he offers, everything about him, and to still consciously choose to reject that. Because at the end of the day, that is what sends all people to damnation. To know the truth in some capacity or another, even if you don't know Christ, because I believe there's a verse that says that those that don't know will be judged by what they do have. God will. People ask, well, what about people who never heard about Jesus? And let me see. I'll see if I can find it, but I'm pretty sure that they're judged based off of what God has given them.
Hmm.
The Old Testament saints, they didn't have, like, people like Abraham. He didn't have the law. He didn't have Christ's death on the cross. But we do believe, and in fact we know, because Abraham's bosom, when Jesus was giving us the story of Lazarus and the rich man, we know where Abraham ended up. He didn't have the law. He didn't have the cross, but he was judged by what he had, which was his conscience, which was his relationship with God. So
Hmm.
knowing the truth in whatever capacity that may be for you, and then choosing to still act against it, choosing to still act in rebellion, choosing to, just consciously be evil, I think that is the unforgivable sin. And lots of other sins can lead you there, or rather they come from that place. But I think ultimately that is what, leads us all down the wrong path. So yeah,
Hmm.
I've never heard that before. The soul not actually being eternal. That's not a Christian thing, but that's actually something that came uh, from Greek philosophy. Is that
It's
how you
more of
said it?
it's more of the ability for the soul never to die, an immortal
Mm,
soul. That's more of a Greek concept than anything, because they obviously have the river Styx, don't they, themselves, where the spirit goes after you die. It's kind of like Hades. It's their version of hell in a sense.
mhm.
And yeah, from what I was researching, that it is actually it wasn't a later edition. And then obviously as time goes on, we've had
I see.
romantic artists create renditions of hell for their own stories, like
Yeah,
Paradise Lost or Dante's Inferno and things like this. And
yeah,
I think it, it,
mhm,
it kind of got away from itself, from the original source materials, and a lot of fictional imagination
mhm,
started to get blended and assumed to be a part of a biblical
yeah.
theology. And I think obviously
I think.
translations get involved as well. Again, the difference between annihilation and destruction or eternity. And
Mhm,
again, the use of the word Gehenna, for example, somebody brought up in the chat there, and I do believe that was a place just outside of where everything was going down during Jesus' time. Gehenna was the worst
mhm,
possible place to be. And I do believe it was considered one of the worst things for an Israelite of the time to not be buried properly and to have
mhm,
your body just dumped in Gehenna. It was an analogy used by Jesus that they could relate to understand what it truly means to be rejected by God in that sense, or to reject God and to suffer in hell, or to have that, what it would be like, to be that far
mhm.
away from accepting the truth. But he wasn't actually talking about a real place called Gehenna, which was a place of eternal torment. Do you know what I mean? I think, for example,
Yeah,
people like in the Epic of Gilgamesh, for example, you know, the fear of death, because he was an eternal being, a Nephilim creature. He was worried about spending an eternity in the ground being eaten by worms. You know,
mm,
because there was something, this notion that when you die you still live, but not physically, but for eternity.
I th-
That is
I
actually
think
and
that's
that's a distinctly Nephilim problem. You know,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
kind of stuck here with that divine nature from their angelic parents. So when they die, they don't get to sleep or rest. they live, they
yeah.
continue living, but for eternity. And I think again, when it says, people have been much wailing and gnashing of teeth in the lake of fire at the end, I think it's more likely for the multitudes, if not billions, of Nephilim creatures on the other side. They too will be suffering for eternity in the lake of fire. I think it's a place for them, not God's creation
Mhm.
and that are made in his image that were supposed to be there, that he wants to bring unto himself. I do think there's something to be said for the good shepherd saving all of his sheep. all of us,
Yeah.
not one left behind, you know. And that does square more in my eyes with a loving, caring God who's long-suffering and patient, you know. And I think that's the God that Jesus was trying to get us to have a relationship with. People seem so highly that what I've just said there and what I'm even alluding to is probably considered blasphemy to a lot of Christians.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I don't know.
it's a rough thing to go. Like I'm not sold on either one. For me personally, I don't think it changes God's character in my eyes, regardless of whether, for human beings at least, whether the lake of fire is just, a very painful permanent annihilation where you cease to consciously exist, or if it actually is a place of eternal torment. I know what the arguments are for both. The eternal torment one being, it's not actually about, well, the first one being, well, does the punishment match the crime? That seems like no matter what a person has done on earth, does that really warrant eternal torment and conscious suffering for all of eternity? And the argument sort of is, well, it's not actually about what you did or how long it took. By man's own standards, we could sentence somebody to 10 years of prison for just 10 seconds of mischief or mayhem. They could, in 10 seconds, school shooter, for example, or something. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one, oh, you spent this much amount of time doing this, therefore you'll spend this much of time doing whatnot. And there's another explanation saying that it matters about the dignity with which you're committing an offense too. If you, crude analogy, but if you slap a man on the street, you might get a misdemeanor. If you slap the president, the consequence would be, much greater, right? The dignity that you're offending, the higher the dignity, the worse it is. So if you offend the highest dignity that there is, if you offend God, continuously, consciously throughout your entire life, then what punishment would be worthy of such an offense? So I I don't know. I'm not sold on either one. I don't really have. All I know is that I don't want to go there, regardless of what that would look like.
Yeah.
So I know what I'm supposed to focus on. But yeah, I'm not really sure why people are so attached to one or the other. I will say that it seems the eternal suffering comes from the parable. I don't even want to call it a parable because I believe this was a real story. This is the only story in the Bible that Jesus didn't call a parable, that he told it as if he was there. He mentioned names specifically, Lazarus and the rich man, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. But they both died, and they found themselves in Sheol. In the Old Testament, there wasn't actually, in cartoon Christianity, it's like, oh, you go to heaven or hell. But in the Old Testament, that wasn't how it worked, right? Because there was no remission for our sins yet. We couldn't be in the presence of the Father, so we obviously can't go to heaven. But there were still people who were considered righteous by the standard that God was judging them by at the time, whether that be the law or before the law, maybe their conscience. So in the Old Testament, there was a place called Sheol, or the pit, or the grave, depending on your translation. And Sheol was just simply the underworld, right? The righteous went to Sheol, the unrighteous went to Sheol. Everybody who died goes to Sheol. It's like a waiting room. Now, within Sheol, there are two compartments. There's Abraham's bosom, or paradise, and then there's torments, or in the Greek, it was called Hades, right? So the unrighteous obviously went to Hades, and this is where the rich man found himself. And then the righteous went to paradise. And this is where Jesus told the thief on the cross that he would be. He said, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." I always found that strange because, Jesus promised this guy that, oh, you'll be with me in paradise today. But then you read elsewhere in the Bible that then Jesus descended into supposedly hell. So I was like, oh, this false promise. I found that kind of strange. But yeah, and they actually went to Abraham's bosom, and we see that when Jesus rises again, we see that he came up again, and they saw resurrected saints and things like that. So it's a notion called the harrowing of hell, which is basically Jesus went down to the people that had lived and died before they had a chance to be saved, see the cross, but they were still righteous in God's eyes. So people like David or Abraham, and all those Old Testament saints, we could call them. So Jesus went down. It says that he ministered unto the spirits. He was in hell for 3 days. And what was he doing there? He was, number one, collecting the keys of death and Hades, and number two, he was liberating, the people, setting the captives free. There's no verse. That's what the harrowing of hell. That's what the whole idea is. There's no verse that says that he categorically did that, but you know, we see in one place that Jesus went down. We see another place that he came back up with lots of people, and then we see elsewhere that he describes what the underworld actually looks like. So people put all those things together and they say, okay, this is probably what happened. Again, I'm not saying that that's categorically what the Bible says, but that's the general belief about how it went down. So
Yeah, but the thing
in
is,
Sheol, we had
even in your language, though, you're still referring to Sheol as Sheol as hell. But these sound like very different places,
they
very
are.
distinctly different places. Sheol is like a catch-all holding place for all souls until there's a form of judgment capable. There's a part of Sheol which you could call
Yes.
paradise within that place, which is for Abraham's bosom, the saints, those who were good enough to not
Yeah.
have to be in any form of stasis or sleep or something, whatever the rest of Sheol was. But Sheol is never described as a place of constant torment. It's not hell, exactly. It's just like a holding cell for the rest of the dead, isn't it, of some kind? And then it seems like the lake of fire analogy in Revelation, which gets brought up, has been mixed in with this concept of a post-death annihilation, which I'm theorizing here may be reserved specifically for the devil, his angels, and their offspring, is from what I'm gathering. And it seems like somewhere along the line, we've all been blended together into one place, a good place and a bad place, shall we say? And that's not
Yeah.
really it. It's way more complicated than that. It's not as distinct of when we die, we suddenly either go to heaven or to hell. That was never a distinctly biblical concept. From what I'm aware, is there's a moment where we'll all be in front of the throne of God for final judgment. And that's.
In all fairness,
Go ahead, sorry.
in all fairness, I think where it comes from, the eternal suffering, comes from the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. When the rich man does get to Sheol, there actually is a place where, and it describes that he is like, it's not fun. It sounds like hell. It's fire, it's torment. He looks to Abraham. He can see Lazarus on the paradise side of Sheol, and he asks him to dip his finger in water so that he can cool his tongue. He asks Abraham to tell his brothers who are alive not to come here. If you read the parable, it genuinely does sound like, okay, this is a place of like genuine discomfort,
Mm.
and I think that's where the idea of, okay, the lake of fire it'll be the same thing. But I don't think that's the case. I think that's where the whole, oh, we'll suffer for all eternity in the lake of fire, I think that's where that comes from. From what I understand, I think Jesus went down, he emptied paradise, he emptied the righteous side of Sheol, I guess. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe Sheol expanded, they did some renovations and just added more hellish landscape there. I don't know, who knows. But he emptied out Abraham's bosom, and now the only people left in Sheol, or the only people who still go to Sheol, is just a place for the unrighteous. It's still a holding cell, but they still suffer. Maybe, I don't. This is speculation now, because I don't know what would have happened after, but I still believe that the final judgment, that the lake of fire, is. I think there's a very strong case to be made that it is just genuine annihilation, and that the only people who are left behind to suffer continuously are the angelic rebels who have, been causing havoc since day one. And on that topic, I think the reason I brought up my question of whether what you think the fate of the angels who are rebelling and the demons was, how they were living during the millennial kingdom, was because I think I posted it in the Telegram. I said that there's something really strange about Disney, and I say that, and I don't mean in like the Hollywood sort of the industry is corrupt type of way, but I mean the source of all their stories, their earlier stories, right? They were all fairy tales and folklore and all these types, Snow White, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, all these types of things, and it they all they were all rediscovered. All these stories, they don't actually know where they came from. They don't know the true origin of these stories. They were all collected, or reimagined or rewritten in some form in the 1800s, in and around the 1800s. And supposedly that's when, say, if we believe the millennial reign already passed, if we believe that theory, that's supposedly in and around when Satan may have been released for his short season. So all these stories springing up again right as Satan was released, and if we try to like, I've tried my best to find like when did these stories, like who came up with this stuff, when did this actually begin, when did it start, and the few that I can find, a lot of it is just chalked up to, oh, people just, they just came up with it. It was just passed around. There's no actual date or anything we can trace to find where they came from. But the few that you can find, they're all from the time when supposedly the millennial reign was going down. And so I just kind of had this, weird thought, like, oh, Tales from the Kingdom, like during the millennial reign, these are some of the things that may have been going down, and then they, rehashed them, respun them, turned them into Disney movies. Who knows? But when looking at these stories, it's kind of weird. Princesses, dragons, Jack and the Beanstalk. A guy climbs up a lot to find a whole land of giants, or like witchcraft and wizardry. Someone being turned into a beast. All these different types of things. Dragons flying. So I was wondering, like, this kind of sounds like the days of Noah. I don't know. Like, what was the millennial kingdom like? Were angelic beings and demons and Nephilim, were they still around? Were they locked up? If these are tales from the kingdom, and I don't know. It was just a thought.
Well, we know that Satan is released at the end of the 1,000-year reign, so we know Satan at least was locked up. But that isn't to say the offspring of the angels and those angels who did not create Nephilim, who were still in rebellion, was probably still around. But they probably had to take a step back and go into hiding, perhaps. They were probably heavily hunted during that time as well, the Nephilim, if there were any around. And I think people imagine the millennial reign of Christ, the physical kingdom. I'm not talking about some kind of weird spiritual concept here. A physical kingdom on earth where it was ruled by Christ for 1,000 years. People imagine, well, it would be perfected peace and there'd be no issues whatsoever anywhere. I think they're confusing the new heaven and the new earth with the millennial reign of Christ, because the millennial reign of Christ, he comes with a rod of iron to rule, which is to keep people in line, through force if necessary. It's more of a struggle and a battle to bring everybody in line with his regime, in a sense. Not to put a negative spin on it, because it's still it still would have been a great kingdom. You know what I mean? And you would have been better off for going along with it. But there would have been people in rebellion still. That would instill people, and that's the story of humanity, as we've said, rebellion against God and his plan. Even Adam and Eve were in Eden and still rebelled. It's kind of, so just because people live during the millennial reign doesn't mean they're suddenly not going to rebel and want to do it their way instead of his way. I do believe there would have still been hybrid humans, cryptids, Nephilim around, but I believe there were also dragon hunters and giant hunters around at the same time as well, who were going out there emboldened by the faith in the God who's on their side to go and deal with the continued Israelite given edict to wipe everything out like it was in Canaan. I think that would have just continued. I don't think why stop necessarily. And like you said, there's loads of tales and images of Saint George hunting dragons, these type of things.
Yeah.
And I think we would have had that going on still, and everything would not have been sunshine and rainbows. But I certainly think for the Nephilim physical creatures, it was a bad time. I don't think it was a great. I don't think it was a great time. Yeah, and I think that's why the stories of pockets of tribes of Nephilim hiding in caves we hear about. Like the city car of North America, the tall red-haired cannibals who were, annoying all the tribes of the American plains, the Duwamish people and things like this. And so they had to go to war with them and trap them in the cave and set fire to the entrance of the cave to suffocate them, to kill them.
Smoke them out.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like those don't sound like stories that happened that long ago. These are very recent memories the tribe still orally passes down in story and tradition, and there's evidence to show that the cave exists. Something happened in there. There's burn marks everywhere. There's like odd artifacts found in the cave in the 1800s that match the story. There's skeletons that were found in there supposedly, but the Smithsonian came and took them away. Obviously, there's no evidence for that anymore. But it's kind of. Yeah. When did that happen? Was that the 1600s, the 1800s? Was it during the millennial reign by any chance? And from the stories I've read compiled from my book, wherever humans encountered Nephilim, they lost. the Nephilim lost. They were always wiped out or killed or died, you know. And I think that is because that's kind of their fate.
It's not what you would expect. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't expect that, no. In most other times, you know, they subjugated humanity. But I think because their numbers are so thin now, they are hiding. They're in caves. Mostly, they're in hiding, you know what I mean? They're trying not to expose themselves too much because I think they know that their fate is to be killed. I mean, God said, you know, go and remove all of them from the lands of Canaan. You know, the lands that I've promised you, and I think he also meant the whole world in a way. Are you there? I think he might still be there, but can't hear me. I'm not sure. I think we've got some audio issues. But you know, summarizing my point, that I do think when God, you know, told the Israelites to go and kill all the giants, he meant that as a continuous order. I mean, they even failed to fully do it, I believe, in the Bible, you know, which is why Israel lost the land eventually. They didn't fulfill the commandment to destroy all of them. And I'm getting some... You can't hear this, guys, but I'm getting some weird clicking noise coming from him right now. So I'm going to have to just shut that down and turn that off. There we go. Right. Anyway, guys, I think we've lost Alkaline there, which is a shame because that was a good conversation. A nice back and forth. He's clearly a very knowledgeable man who has a lot of information on biblical theology and hermeneutics and the rest. You know, he seems to know quite a lot, and then that was great. I think I learned a thing or two there as well. So thanks, Alkaline, for coming on and having that talk with me. I really appreciate it. It seems like we lost our signal there. Telegram failed us miserably, which is a shame. But we have been going for over 2 hours now. This has been a long show, and I think we've covered quite a lot of controversial topics along the way, which is what we like to do here on the Understanding Conspiracy channel. We like to get deep, we like to get weird, we like to talk about all the strange things, the controversial things as well, and have a good, strong back and forth. So I'm gonna have to leave it there, guys. I've been going for a long time. My throat's getting very dry. I have a bit of a sore throat. But thanks for listening to this. Please make sure to check out the Patreon if you haven't already, if you're interested in all the extra stuff on there. And don't forget, guys, if you did pre-order your book, once again, I am letting you know now, please send me your shipping information. Send it to understandingconspiracy@gmail.com. The email address is in the description of this video and every video that's on my channel. I need your shipping address, okay? Send it to me in the email. And please also include your choice of either Volume 1, which is about to be released in a few months' time. Do you want that one signed and sent to you? Or do you want to wait another year for both combined volumes to be signed and sent to you? You can only choose one. So send your shipping address and your choice to understandingconspiracy@gmail.com, please. The email address is down below if you want to copy and paste it in the description of this video. I will be maybe live tomorrow. Mark P. Steves from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast has invited me on to do a new podcast, some kind of new show that he's going to be doing, which he says he thinks I'm perfect for. Whatever that means. So I know it sounds cryptic. I know just as much as I told you there. That's all I've got. So I maybe get a message from him tonight or tomorrow to clarify what that means. But if I can get that to you guys, I'll try and stream it to you as well. If not, there is a snippet from my talk with Noble over at CFR Network. I'm releasing that tomorrow, where he shares his story of telling the truth to his family from our live show we did the other day, which was great, a Truth or Therapy session. So if you haven't heard that already, go and check that out if you don't want to wait for the snippet to be released tomorrow. If you enjoyed the snippet, watch the whole thing. It was a really great conversation, and I'm thankful he could come on and share that with me. And also, he's a fellow Brit, so for your American listeners out there, maybe you like a bit of change in accent, go and check it. Go and check that talk I did with CFR out. And on this weekend, I am on this Sensible Hippies podcast on Saturday. And I haven't got my phone on me, I've dropped it, but I think I also have a Truth or Therapy session on Sunday with a guest as well, so it should be good. lots coming, lots to happen soon. Always some content coming away, and I'll always be making more videos as well. And I'll be keeping you guys updated as much as I can. Someone's asking me, Puddle Glum, have you ever thought about talking about SRA? Yes, I have, and I have done, and I will. I've mentioned it every now and then. I've had people on talk with me about their experiences with satanic ritual abuse. It's a bit of a harsh topic. It's a bit scary for a lot of people, and it's not easy for people to open up about their experiences with those things either. So, you know, it's difficult to get guests on, but it's certainly something I'm interested in. I think anybody who's into conspiracy knows about SRA, that's for sure. And other than that, guys, I think I'm going to have to leave that there. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless.